Late afternoon sunlight cast a warm glow over the quiet streets of Lakewood Grove, a suburban neighborhood known for its well-kept lawns and friendly residents. Monica Reyes, a poised professional in her early 40s, was driving home from a business meeting in her sleek, midnight blue electric car. She felt at ease, pleased with her progress in life and grateful for the opportunities she'd had. But that sense of calm shattered the moment flashing red and blue lights appeared in her rearview mirror. The high-pitched wail of a siren sliced through Monica's serene thoughts. She glanced at the dashboard. Her speed was well under the limit. Confused and irritated, she flicked on her turn signal and pulled to the side of the road. It felt like there must be some mistake. As the patrol car rolled to a stop behind her, Monica took a steadying breath and prepared to speak calmly with the officer. Stepping out of the cruiser was Officer Troy Henderson, a tall, broad-shouldered man with a hard stare. Gravel crunched under his boots as he approached Monica's car. Without greeting or explanation, he snapped, "License and registration." The bluntness of his tone put Monica on edge, but she handed over her documents while keeping her composure. "Could you tell me why I'm being pulled over, officer?" she asked, her voice measured. "I'll ask the questions," he barked. "Step out of the vehicle." Monica frowned. She knew traffic law well enough to find his request unusual, especially since he hadn't provided any reason. Nevertheless, she decided to comply. The tension was already high, and she didn't want to escalate things unnecessarily. Exhaling slowly, she opened the door and exited her car. A few neighbors walking their dogs or returning from errands paused to watch the encounter from a distance. As Monica stood by the roadside, Officer Henderson hovered near his holster, fingers twitching slightly. The message was clear: if she resisted, he was ready to act. Monica held her ground, refusing to show fear. She had faced many challenging situations in her career. She wasn't about to be intimidated by an officer stretching his authority. "Why do I need to step out?" she asked again, her voice calm but direct. "You're acting suspicious," Henderson retorted. "I don't have to explain myself to you." A spark of anger flared in Monica's mind. The officer's dismissive tone and vague accusations felt deeply unfair. She'd done nothing wrong, and he offered no justification. Around them, bystanders whispered, some filming with their phones. An older woman called out, "Leave her alone if she hasn't done anything." Officer Henderson turned a scowl on the onlookers. "Mind your own business," he snapped, his frustration shining through. Monica decided it was time to speak up. "Officer, I'm cooperating fully. But if there's no probable cause, you have no grounds to detain me." The crisp authority in her voice seemed to strike a nerve. Henderson stepped closer, clearly irritated, but she refused to back down. Their confrontation was becoming a spectacle, one that bristled with tension and hinted at deeper issues. Finally, Monica asked what she'd been wanting to for the past few minutes. "Officer Henderson, do you know who I am?" His lip curled in contempt. "I don't care who you are," he spat. But his bravado faltered when Monica replied, "I'm the director of the Office of Professional Standards for the entire Grand Lake state. That means I oversee the conduct of law enforcement officers, including you." A ripple of surprise passed through the gathered onlookers. Some gasped softly. Henderson's posture went rigid, his confidence visibly cracking. For a moment, he looked at Monica as though trying to decide if she was bluffing. She gestured to the small dash cam in her car, its red light blinking. "Feel free to verify my credentials," she said evenly. "I'm sure your station can confirm my identity." Henderson's jaw tightened, and he took a step back. He spoke into his radio, muttering something that Monica couldn't make out. From the shift in his expression, it wasn't hard to guess that the dispatcher had just confirmed her story. By now, a small crowd had formed at a safer distance. A few people held up their phones, quietly recording the unfolding drama. They had seen an officer pull over a driver and escalate the situation, only to learn that this driver had significant influence over his career. The power dynamic flipped in a blink, and the tension in the air crackled like a live wire. Henderson's face paled as he ended his radio call. He looked around, suddenly aware of how damning the footage could be, an officer harassing and intimidating someone who was not only innocent but occupied a high-ranking position that evaluated officers' behavior statewide. He cleared his throat. I didn't intend any disrespect, he muttered, though his earlier hostility made the apology ring hollow. Monica faced him with an unwavering gaze. What you did here was more than disrespectful, she said calmly. It was a clear abuse of power. If I didn't know my rights, or if I were someone who lacked resources, how far would this have gone? Her words struck a chord with the onlookers. A young man in the crowd nodded, echoing, "Yeah, exactly." A prickly silence settled, broken only by the sporadic buzzing of cicadas. Henderson, stripped of his authority, wrestled with his response. His hand dropped from his holster, and he took another step back, head lowered. The entire street seemed to breathe a collective sigh of relief at the diminishing threat. What many witnesses didn't know was that Officer Troy Henderson had a history of alleged misconduct. Rumors swirled throughout Lakewood Grove that he had a habit of profiling drivers and issuing questionable citations. Whispers circulated about formal complaints quietly disappearing. Skeptics suspected deeper departmental flaws, cover-ups, subtle intimidation tactics, and leadership that turned a blind eye. Until now, there had been no single event big enough to bring everything to the surface. Monica was aware of these rumors, though she never imagined she would end up personally entangled in them. Her position had exposed her to countless reports of questionable police practices, yet it was different to stand on the roadside, confronted by the very behaviors she investigated. Henderson, meanwhile, stood at a crossroads in his life. He could admit wrongdoing, or he could double down, hoping to escape accountability. But with cameras rolling and the director of professional standards glaring at him, the path of denial was rapidly closing off. Monica maintained her composure, although the adrenaline still coursed through her. She addressed Henderson plainly, "Officer, I believe an apology alone isn't enough. You need to reflect on why you saw me as suspicious in the first place. If you're acting on bias, that can't continue." He swallowed hard, eyes cast down. "I understand," he managed. "I'll do better." Behind the regret in his words, there was a flicker of genuine fear of consequences, and maybe even fear of confronting his own prejudice. The bystanders slowly dispersed, some shaking their heads in disgust, others looking relieved that the confrontation had ended peacefully. A few onlookers told Monica they supported her and appreciated what she was doing to hold the police accountable. She thanked them, then met Henderson's gaze one more time. "I'll be following up," she stated. "Not just with you, but with your entire department. Expect a thorough review." Her tone was measured and professional, the final word on the matter. When Monica finally got back into her car, she felt a wave of relief mixed with determination. She drove away, eyes flicking to her rearview mirror to see Henderson trudging back to his patrol car, shoulders slumped in defeat. This encounter had stirred something significant. It wasn't just one officer's poor decision, it was a glimpse into a system that needed serious scrutiny. Later that evening, Monica pulled into her driveway, switched off the engine, and sat quietly for a moment. She thought of every individual who might have faced a similar situation without the authority or knowledge to defend themselves. That thought renewed her purpose. She planned to use the incident as a catalyst for change in Lakewood Grove and beyond. Back at the precinct, Henderson shut himself in the break room, running his hand over his face in disbelief. The day's events replayed in his mind, from the moment he flipped on his sirens to the revelation of Monica's true identity. He thought about the onlookers, their cameras pointed at him, capturing every harsh word he'd hurled. His greatest fear wasn't just disciplinary action, it was acknowledging that he had indeed crossed a line and hurt people along the way. At home, Monica stepped out of her car and gazed at the twilight sky. There was a sense of quiet victory in knowing she had refused to be bullied, but she also recognized the challenges ahead. Reform never came easily or quickly, especially in institutions as complex as law enforcement. Still, moments like this bolstered her resolve. Standing her ground was just one piece of a larger puzzle, one that she was determined to solve. For Monica Reyes, And for anyone who witnessed that traffic stop, the lesson rang loud and clear: true power isn't about badges, titles, or the volume of one's voice. It's about using authority responsibly and being willing to answer for every action taken in the line of duty. If this story struck a chord with you, consider sharing it. Leave a comment, subscribe, and help spread the word that accountability begins wherever injustices are confronted. Because at the end of the day, the real difference lies in those who stand up, speak out, and never let abuse of power go unchallenged.